If you could choose when to be born in human history, when would you choose? Most people would pick now. Air conditioning, medicine, pizza delivery, and no one is hunting you for food. But imagine you got the opposite ticket. Imagine you were born in the absolute worst moment to be a human being. Not just a bad year, a time when the sky went dark, the air turned to poison, and half the world died screaming. Historians and scientists actually argued about this for years, and they finally agreed. The worst year to be alive was not 1914 with World War I. It was not 1348 with the Black Death. It was not even 1945 with the atomic bomb. It was 536, and what came after. The year 536 AD. A Byzantine historian named Procopius wrote about it. He said, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during the whole year." A Roman senator named Cassiodorus wrote, "We marvel to see no shadows of our bodies at noon." And in China, records say the stars were invisible for months. What happened? A massive mystery fog rolled over the entire planet. Not a normal fog. A veil of ash and dust in the stratosphere that blocked the sun for 18 months straight. The sun looked blue. The sky looked dim, even at midday. It was noon, but it felt like dusk. Today, we think we know what caused it. In early 536, one or maybe three huge volcanoes erupted near the equator, Iceland or El Salvador or Krakatoa. We are not sure which ones, but the ash they threw into the sky circled the globe. When volcanic ash reaches the stratosphere, it can stay there for years, reflecting sunlight back into space. And when you block the sun, everything collapses. The summer of 536 was the coldest summer in 2,000 years. In Europe and Asia, it snowed in June, July, and August. Crops failed everywhere. In China, it snowed so hard people were dying of starvation in the streets. Locusts ate what little was left. In Ireland, records from monks say there was a failure of bread from the years 536 to 539. In Peru, drought destroyed civilizations. When there is no food, people get weak. And when people get weak, disease feasts. 5 years after the fog, in 541, the second disaster arrived. The plague of Justinian. It started in Egypt, rode on grain ships full of rats and fleas to Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. Constantinople was the biggest, richest city in the world at the time. 500,000 people lived there, and then the plague hit. The eyewitness Procopius wrote, "Nearly all of mankind came close to being destroyed." The dead were piling up so fast that Emperor Justinian ordered the soldiers to clear the streets. They ran out of cemeteries. They stacked bodies in the towers of the city walls. They filled ships with corpses and set them adrift. At its peak, 10,000 people were dying per day in that one city. In the end, between 25 and 50 million people died across the Mediterranean, 40% of Constantinople, half of Europe. The Roman Empire never recovered. It was supposed to reunite the ancient world. Instead, it was crippled forever. And if you survived that, you still had to live through what came next. For almost a decade, from 536 to 545, the climate stayed broken. Cold, famine, plague, war. No one knew why the gods had abandoned them. Some thought the world was ending, and they were not far off. But is 536 really the worst? Let's look at other contenders. 1347, the Black Death. If you were born in Europe in 1347, you were born into the mouth of hell. A bacterium called Yersinia pestis came from Central Asia on fleas living on black rats. It hit Sicily in October 1347. In 4 years, it killed 200 million people, 1/3 of Europe. In some towns, 90% died. There were not enough living people to bury the dead. Priests refused to hear confessions because they would catch the plague. Doctors wore beaked masks filled with herbs thinking bad air caused it. People thought Jews poisoned the wells, so they burned them. Others thought God was punishing them, so they whipped themselves in the streets. The sky was full of corpses, and if you survived the first wave, it came back every 10 years, for 300 years. What did it feel like? Your groin would swell to the size of an apple. Black boils called buboes filled with blood and pus would pop up in your armpits and neck. Then fever, vomiting blood, and death in 3 days. If it got into your lungs, you coughed blood and died in 1 day. No medicine worked. No prayer worked. You just died. And your family could not even touch you. Another contender is 1492 in the Americas. If you were born as an indigenous person in the Caribbean or Mexico or Peru in the century after Columbus arrived, your world ended. Not because of war, but because of smallpox, measles, influenza, and diseases Europeans had immunity to and you did not. In central Mexico, the Aztec Empire had 25 million people. 100 years later, they had 1 million, a 96% death rate. That is not a plague. That is an apocalypse. Entire cities became ghost towns. Temples were abandoned. The forests grew back over farmland because there was no one left to farm it. Some scientists think the death of so many people was so massive that global temperatures dropped because all those farms turned back into forest and absorbed carbon dioxide. Then there is 14 to 1945. If you were born in Europe in 1900, you got the worst double feature in history. World War I started when you were 14. Trench warfare, poison gas, machine guns, and mud that swallowed men alive. 10 million soldiers died. Then, when you were 18, you got the Spanish flu. 50 to 100 million people died, more than the war. Then you got the Great Depression, where you starved. Then, when you were 39, you got World War II. 60 years of progress wiped out. Cities firebombed, atomic bombs, concentration camps. If you were born in Poland in 1900, you had a 1 in 5 chance of not surviving to 1945. But let's go even further back, 60,000 years ago. If you were born as a human in that time, you lived in a world that almost killed our entire species. Genetic evidence shows that the total human population crashed to less than 1,300 breeding individuals. We almost went extinct. A supervolcano called Toba in Indonesia erupted. It was the biggest eruption in 2 million years. It blocked the sun and caused a volcanic winter that lasted 6 years. Humans were already few. Now we were starving in caves in Africa, with less genetic diversity than a pack of wolves. You could fit every human alive on Earth in one small town. One bad winter, one disease, and we would be gone forever, like the dinosaurs. And what about before humans? If you want the absolute worst day to be alive on Earth, it was 66 million years ago. A 6-mile-wide asteroid slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula at 40,000 miles per hour. It released energy equal to 10 billion atomic bombs. The impact vaporized rock and sent it into space. That rock rained back down as molten glass, setting every forest on Earth on fire at the same time. Then a cloud of dust blocked the sun for years. Plants died. Dinosaurs starved. 75% of all species on Earth died. If you were any large animal alive that day, you had about a 1% chance of making it. But for humans specifically, most historians still come back to 536, because it was not just a war, it was not just a plague, it was climate collapse, plus famine, plus plague, plus war, all at once, with no explanation. A Stanford historian named Michael McCormick called it the beginning of one of the worst periods to be alive, if not the worst period. A medieval historian named Michael Kulikowski said 536 was the worst year. And yet, people lived through it. Farmers kept planting even though the sun was blue. Mothers kept having children even though half their village was dead. Monks in Ireland kept writing books by candlelight while the world seemed to end. They did not know about volcanoes or Yersinia pestis or trade winds. They just knew they had to survive. And they did, which is why you are here. So the next time your phone dies or your coffee is cold, remember 536. Remember a world where the sun forgot to shine, where snow fell in summer, where 10,000 people died in a city in a single day and no one could bury them. You were not born in the worst time. You were born after it. And that is the only reason you get to hear this story at all.